Hey guys and gals, another week of fishing. We are not in the Twin Cities right this second. We are actually over in Wisconsin. Just finished up a couple fun days at the cabin. However, we're in the Twin Cities all week chasing down all kinds of fish. We are in full summer patterns as far as I'm concerned. The fish are moving out. They're on the deep weed lines. They're in the thicker weeds. Not a whole lot of activity going on shallow. Maybe in the morning time, that kind of stuff, but a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. I got Brody, I got Ben here. We're going to talk about jigworm fishing because that's how we caught a lot of our fish this week. That's how we caught him on Minnetonka. That's how we caught him in the Chisago area. And that's how we caught him here in western Wisconsin. So we're finding some very similar patterns. Water temps are jumping into the upper 70s. Upper 70s. We saw water temps as warm as 82 degrees one day. That's surface temp. And when it hits 97, 100 degrees outside for air temp, that's just what you deal with. We got a lot of wind, a lot of hot weather. I'll tell you what, we've been joking around. Was it windy today, guys?
It's really windy.
It's been windy all week. I don't remember a windier year in 20 plus years of guiding where it's been like this. We're talking 20 mile an hour winds, 30 mile an hour winds. We're talking sustained winds. We're kind of tucked in right here up in the parking lot, but it was whipping out there today. But you deal with it. That's just how you go. You roll with the punches. So one thing we've talked about before we get into the nitty gritty is we've upsized some of our jig heads. Because of that wind, we've had to increase the weight that we're fishing to keep contact with the lure, to keep it down in the strike zone, and honestly, to help us cast, to give us castability. So think about some of those situations when you're talking about wind. You want to increase the weight of what you're doing. We've predominantly targeted bass this last week. We picked up a few pike along the way. We did get a bonus muskie. We're predominantly targeted bass, and that's kind of what we're going to focus on here on this report. So we're going to get into it. I'll talk a little bit about the Twin Cities. I'm going to let these two hammers talk about how they caught their fish the last 2 days here in Wisconsin. So Twin Cities, a lot of fish in that 10 to 15 foot zone. The boats in 18, 19, 22 feet were casting in, and it's a slow approach. I had to keep telling a bunch of my clients to not put their hand on the reel. You cast out there, you feed it some line, you flick the bail, and you hold that rod up. You let that bait go right down to the strike zone. And then all I'm doing in terms of bringing line in is with my rod, not with the reel. And what I mean by that is I'm pulling the line in, kind of hopping it, and all I'm doing with the reel is picking up slack. I'm not reeling in the lure. I'm working the bait back to the boat, nice and slow, looking for every subtle movement, anything out of the ordinary, and then I'm picking up slack. That's how I'm fishing that jig worm. You want to keep it down in that bottom portion of the water column. That's the strike zone. If you don't get an initial hit on the fall, which oftentimes happens, you work that bait slow back to the boat. That's how we're catching these fish. And my setup most of the week was a Mighty Head from All Terrain. Good news, I've had a lot of people ask questions about this. The Mighty Head's back in stock. Chartreuse, green pumpkin, black, and all the sizes back in stock on allterrain.com. And I was fishing that Tri-Alive crawler. I beat it like a dead horse this last week. It continued to catch fish for me on Lake Minnetonka, Chisago chain, even here in Wisconsin. I did switch to a net approach. I did switch to a smaller presentation, which the boys are going to talk about as well to get some of these fish. But this is what gave me my big bites this entire week. Super cool combination, whole lot of fun to fish. Has almost a glide approach, kind of a combination jig worm, almost small glide bait, super efficient. 20-pound braid, 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, and away we go. I got that brand new Vanford on there from Shimano. Absolutely love this thing. So that's how I'm catching my fish on a jig worm. We did get some fish on a weightless wacky in 8 to 10 feet of water. That bite kind of fizzled out. The jig worm is what I'm going to put in my hand here this next week as well. That's what we found. Then we get to Wisconsin, and these dudes put the hammer on some fish. Who wants to go first? You want to talk, Brody? Brody over here. Tell them what you're catching fish and how it worked. Talk loud, dude.
I have a half candy cometa with a green net head and
Chameleon candy cometa ripped in half with a green Ned head. Go up there and show it to the camera. Look at that thing. That catch you a bunch of fish?
yeah,
Nice. And what rod are you using?
Sam Sobey Special.
Sam Sobey Special by Dobbins. He's whooping fish on that. So he's been fishing the Ned head. He's been taking that Mr. Twister cometa, candy chameleon. He's ripping it in half. That thing's just got the coolest looking contrast there in the water. And you caught some fish on that, didn't you? Pretty fun? They fight hard? You have fun at the cabin? Gonna catch some more big ones this summer? Follow Brody for more tips. He comes onto this episode once in a while and gives us some feedback. This dude catches all kinds of fish. Good job, buddy. Benjamin over here. Now, Ben, story of the fish that got away. Ben had the biggest bass of the weekend on a couple hours ago, and the thing got the best of us. We saw it jump right by the boat too, didn't we, Ben? How are you catching your fish? Because you got a bunch too. What are you using?
So I'm using a little pickle right here with right. Yeah,
Pickle?
And then
A net head.
with the Kumara, the Shimano Kumara rod.
Ben calls it a pickle. It's a Lake Fork ring fry. And Ben caught a bunch of fish on that today too, including almost our biggest bass of the weekend. Is that one gonna haunt you for a while? You gonna have nightmares about that one tonight? That thing jumped, we all looked at it and go, oh, and then it got off. But that's what
That would have
happens.
been my PB.
Would have possibly been his PB bass. So they're out there and he caught that thing probably in about 17 feet of water, casting out. We were all kind of fishing a weed line. Benny casts out this way and he hooks our biggest fish of the day. So that was a lot of fun. Did you have a good time? You caught a bunch of panfish too today or this weekend at the dock?
Yeah, we were fishing our dock and we just cast it out. We caught a bunch of panfish.
Big bluegills, rock bass,
Yep.
saw all kinds of stuff, went swimming. Pretty good time this weekend, huh?
Tell
Benny?
me about the big bluegill we got.
Nice bluegill?
Yeah, nice bluegill.
There you have it. Good time of year just to go fishing, have a lot of fun, get the family out there, enjoy the water sports, cabin life at its finest. But this next week, I plan to do kind of the same thing. We're going to be targeting fish in that 15 to 20 foot range. I'm going to start checking some of the deep coontail, see what happens out there. I'll be on Tonka a whole lot this week. I'll report back next week with some solid reports on hopefully what these fish continue to do, see if the pattern continues to stay the way it is, and hopefully we set some hooks. Have fun this week, enjoy it. Next weekend's the July 4th holiday. Be safe, be respectful. Make sure on the water you're always paying attention to other people. Always be the defensive angler on the water, and you have a whole lot more fun. Good luck out there. We'll catch you next week.